प्रार्थना गुरुदेव से ये स्वर्ग संस्कार हो, अति उच्चतम जीवन बने परमार्थ में व्यवहार हो। ना हम रहे अपने हमको सभी से गर्ज है, गुरुदेव ये आशीष दे जो सोचने का फर्ज है। हम हो पुजारी तत्व के, गुरुदेव के आदेश के, सच प्रेम के नित नेम के, सधर्म के सत्कर्म के, चीढ़ झूठी राह की, अन्याय की अभिमान की, सेवा करन को दास की, परवाह नहीं हो जान की। छोटे न हो हम बुद्धि से, हो विश्वमय से ईश्वरमय, हो राममय और कृष्णमय, जगदेव में जगदीश में, हर इंद्रियों पर ताब कर, हम वीर हो अति धीर हो, उज्ज्वल रहे सर से सदा, निज धर्म रत खंभीर हो। अति शुद्ध हो आचार से, तन मन हमारा सर्वदा, आध्यात्म की शक्ति हमें कभी नहीं करके जुदा। इस अमर आत्मा का हमें हर श्वास भर में गम रहे, गर मौत भी आ गई सुख हमसे रहे।
अभी इंडेक्स का सीरीज चल रहा है आप लोगों के, राइट? एंड इसमें आज का जो हमारा टॉपिक है वो है इंडेक्स 115। आप में से कितने लोग हैं जिनका क्लास हो चुका है इंडेक्स 115 का? आप जहाँ भी कोचिंग कर रहे हो वहाँ पे सेल्फ स्टडी किया एनी वन है? किसी का नहीं? कोई बात। अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड 9 सबका पढ़ा हुआ है, ठीक है। Accounting Standard 9 and Ind AS 115 altogether different type of entities for applicable. We all know that जिनके ऊपर Ind AS applicable नहीं होता है वहाँ पर Accounting Standard 9 applicable होता है, और जहाँ पर Ind AS applicable होता है वहाँ पर Ind AS 115 applicable होता है। ऐसी कौन सी एंटिटीज है? जितनी भी लिस्टेड एंटिटीज इन द प्रोसेस ऑफ लिस्टिंग है ऑन मेन बोर्ड या फिर एसएमई बोर्ड, ऐसी एंटिटीज के ऊपर Ind AS 115 एप्लीकेबल होता है, ओनली मेन बोर्ड। अपार्ट फ्रॉम दैट जिसका जो नेट वर्थ है वो 250 करोड़ से ऊपर है, उसके ऊपर भी इंडिया से एप्लीकेबल होता है। बट लगभग दोनों स्टैंडर्ड AS9 इंडिया 115 बात ये करते हैं कि उस पर्टिकुलर एंटरप्राइज को रेवेन्यू कब और कितना रिकॉग्नाइज करना चाहिए। AS9 के टाइम पर हमने अच्छे से चीज पढ़ी थी, आईपीसीसी में आपके कोर्स में था, करेक्ट? अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड 9। एंड अगर आप लोग रिकॉल कर सको तो AS9 पूरे के पूरे स्टैंडर्ड को इन द कॉन्टेक्स्ट ऑफ रेवेन्यू रिकॉग्निशन हमको किस चीज का करना है, 3 पार्ट में बांटता था। पहला था गुड्स के केस में, दूसरा था सर्विसेज के केस में, और तीसरा था कि इंटरेस्ट, डिविडेंड और रॉयल्टी के केस में हमको कैसे रेवेन्यू रिकॉग्नाइज करना चाहिए। एंड गुड्स के केस में बिल्कुल 3 कंडीशन हुआ करती थी, वेरी इजी। पहला कि रेवेन्यू रिलायबली मेजर हो जाना चाहिए, राइट? सेकंड, सर्टेनिटी ऑफ कलेक्शन होना चाहिए, और तीसरा या तो लीगल टाइटल ट्रांसफर हो जाना चाहिए या फिर सिग्निफिकेंट रिस्क एंड रिवॉर्ड ट्रांसफर हो जाना चाहिए। साथ में मेरे पास बीइंग द सेलर कोई भी इफेक्टिव कंट्रोल नहीं होना चाहिए, ऐसा लैंग्वेज में हुआ करता था, राइट? पहला जो पॉइंट था कि सिग्निफिकेंट रिस्क, रेवेन्यू रिलायबली मेजर कर सकते हैं, एग्जाम्पल, अगर मैंने किसी को एक सर्विस प्रोवाइड करा है, जस्ट फॉर एन एग्जाम्पल, मेरा बिजनेस है सीसीटीवी सॉल्यूशंस प्रोवाइड करने का, एंड मैं जो सर्विस प्रोवाइड करता हूँ उसका एक पैकेज कुछ इस तरीके से कि मैं 1 लाख रुपए का पूरा पैकेज चार्ज करता हूँ, जिसमें मैं जस्ट फॉर एन एग्जाम्पल 8 सीसीटीवी कैमरा का पूरा किट, पूरा ब्रैकेट प्रोवाइड करता हूँ। उस 1 लाख रुपए में मैं पूरा का पूरा इंस्टॉलेशन भी करके दूंगा, जिसमें वायरिंग ट्रेनिंग सब कुछ होगा, और प्लस 2 साल का मैं मेंटेनेंस सर्विस प्रोवाइड करूंगा, इंक्लूडिंग क्लाउड कंप्यूटिंग सर्विसेज, जहां पर मैं स्टोरेज भी प्रोवाइड करूंगा 2 साल तक। दिस इज माय कंप्लीट पैकेज। समझ में आ रहा है आप लोगों का पूरा पैकेज है? 8 सीसीटीवी कैमरा, उनका इंस्टॉलेशन इंक्लूडिंग पूरा ड्रिलिंग, पूरा वायरिंग, एंड साथ में 2 साल का मेंटेनेंस इंक्लूडिंग क्लाउड स्टोरेज भी मैं प्रोवाइड करूंगा। जब अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड लाइन का बात आता था, तो यहाँ पर मेरे को रेवेन्यू रिलायबिलिटी मेजर करने वाला पॉइंट है, तो आई कैन रिलायबिलिटी मेजर की 1 लाख रुपीज मेरा रेवेन्यू होने वाला है। बट अगर 2 कंडीशन उस कॉन्ट्रैक्ट में साथ में है, पहला कंडीशन कि अगर 2 साल तक किसी भी तरीके का कोई भी मेंटेनेंस इशू नहीं आता है, तो मेरे को 10,000 परफॉर्मेंस बोनस मिलेगा, और अगर इशू आता है तो मुझे 5,000 का पेनल्टी बियर करना पड़ेगा। ठीक है? क्या ये जो वाला क्लोज है 5,000 या 10,000, इसके केस में एट टुडे यू कैन रिलायबली मेजर कि कितना रेवेन्यू लॉस है, कितना रेवेन्यू आने वाला है? अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड 9 टेल्स कि 1 लाख रुपए आप रिलायबली मेजर कर सकते हो, आप इसको रेवेन्यू रिकॉग्नाइज कर लो। बट एज फार एज 10,000 और 5,000 इज कंसर्न, एएस साइन को साइलेंट अमाउंट। ठीक है? सर्टेनिटी ऑफ कलेक्शन होना चाहिए, दैट इज वेरी मच द कंडीशन इन इंडिया सॉल्वेंट फाइनेंस। एंड सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट जो कोड था AS9 का, वो ये हुआ करता था कि अगर आपने लीगल टाइटल ट्रांसफर कर दिया या तो रेवेन्यू रिकॉग्नाइज कर लो, या फिर लीगल टाइटल नहीं भी ट्रांसफर किया बट सिग्निफिकेंट रिस्क है, रिवॉर्ड है, और साथ में इफेक्टिव कंट्रोल है, अब वो आपके पास नहीं है, वो आपने ट्रांसफर कर दिया है, तो भी आप रेवेन्यू रिकॉग्नाइज कर लो। इस वाले एग्जाम्पल में अगर मैंने पूरा का पूरा किट उसके घर पे डिलीवर कर दिया 29 मार्च को, एंड इंस्टॉलेशन के लिए मैंने बोला कि मेरा जो टीम है वो आपके पास इंस्टॉलेशन के लिए 3 अप्रैल को आ जाएगा, और फिर साथ में जो 2 साल का मेंटेनेंस सर्विस वगैरह वो भी चालू हो जाएगा, तो इस केस में अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड 9 के हिसाब से आई हैड द राइट टू अज्यूम कि मैंने सिग्निफिकेंट रिस्क एंड रिवॉर्ड सामने वाले को ट्रांसफर कर दिया है, और अभी मेरे पास कोई भी इफेक्टिव कंट्रोल नहीं है। जब सामने वाले का इफेक्टिव कंट्रोल आ गया है, इसके बारे में साइलेंट। इस पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम पे आई कुड हैव रिकॉग्नाइज्ड 1 लाख रेवेन्यू इन द फाइनेंशियल ईयर, जहां पर 29 मार्च फॉल कर रहा था, इवन दो इंस्टॉलेशन और जो क्लाउड सर्विसेज है वो बाद में स्टार्ट होगी, मतलब सामने वाला भी यूज नहीं कर रहा है अपनी सर्विसेज को, बट AS9 मुझे राइट देता था, एक एम्बिग्यूटी जरूर था कि मैं 1 लाख रुपए रेवेन्यू भी रिकॉग्नाइज कर सकता हूँ। कुछ भी अनबंडलिंग करने का कॉन्सेप्ट नहीं था कि मेरा जो 1 लाख रुपए है उसमें से कितना पार्ट है जो सीसीटीवी कैमरास के टूवर्ड्स है जो मैंने डिलीवर किया है, कितना पार्ट है जो इंस्टॉलेशन के टूवर्ड्स है जो मैंने अभी तक किया नहीं है, कितना पार्ट है जो क्लाउड स्टोरेज के टूवर्ड्स है जो मैंने अभी तक डिलीवर किया नहीं है, वो आने वाले 2 साल में ओवर द टाइम में डिलीवर कर दूं। फर्क समझ में आ रहा है ना? उसी तरीके से सर्विसेज भी हुआ करती थी AS9 के अंदर, जहां पर भी यही कंडीशन थी कि रेवेन्यू रिलायबली मेजर हो जाए, जहां पर मेरे पास सर्टेनिटी ऑफ कलेक्शन हो, और प्लस अगर ओवर द टाइम में सर्विस प्रोवाइड कर रहा हूँ तो प्रोपोर्शनल कंप्लीशन मेथड हुआ करता था AS9 में, और अगर एट अ पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम कर रहा हूँ तो सर्विस कंप्लीट होने के बाद आई कुड हैव रेज्ड द इनवॉइस, जहां पर मैं अपना रेवेन्यू रिकॉग्नाइज कर लूँ। इंडियस 115 में क्या क्या चेंजेस है AS9 के कॉन्ट्रास्ट में, वो आज हमको पढ़ने को मिले। थोड़ा बहुत हिंट मैंने आपको दिया है अभी, जहां पर यू कैन सी कि AS9 के अंदर कुछ ना कुछ कॉन्सेप्चुअल लैकिंग थी। गुड्स के केस में, सर्विसेज के केस में अलग अलग रूल थे। इंडेक्स 115 ऐसा नहीं कर रहे हैं। कोई भी प्रोडक्ट हो, कंपोजिट सर्विसेज हो, गुड्स और सर्विसेज का कॉम्बिनेशन हो, इंडेक्स 115 में सबके लिए सेम रूल्स। अगर मुझे आज के टाइम पर कोई ऐसी गुड्स या सर्विसेज जिसके लिए अगर मैं क्रेडिट पीरियड 1 साल का दूं और बाद में 10 लाख रुपए मिलता है, लेकिन आज अगर मुझे अमाउंट चाहिए तो आज मुझे 8 लाख रुपए मिल रहे हैं, 2 साल बाद अगर आप मुझे अमाउंट देना चाहोगे क्रेडिट पर तो मुझे 10 लाख रुपए मिल जाएगा। जो फाइनेंसिंग कंपोनेंट है उसके बारे में AS9 में किसी भी तरीके का कोई गाइडेंस नहीं था। आई एम नॉट सेइंग कि AS9 उस चीज को मना करता था, अब उस टाइम भी फ्री थे फाइनेंसिंग करने के लिए, बट एएस टाइम में किसी भी तरीके का कोई गाइडेंस नहीं था। क्या इंडियस 115 में वो चीज मिलती है? दैट वी विल सी। अगर मेरा पेनल्टी पोर्शन 5,000 है और परफॉर्मेंस बोनस 10,000 है, विद द प्रोबेबिलिटी कि कोई भी 2 साल में मेंटेनेंस का इशू नहीं आना चाहिए, AS9 तो ये बोलता है कि जब तक रिलायबली आप मेजर नहीं कर सकते, आपको रिकॉग्नाइज नहीं करना है। क्या इंडियस 115 भी यही चीज बोलता है? दैट वी विल सी। अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड 9 के अंदर इस बारे में कोई भी गाइडेंस नहीं थी कि जो 1 लाख रुपीज है उसके अंदर 3 अलग अलग सर्विसेज कंबाइन है, सीसीटीवी कैमरा सर्किट, इंस्टॉलेशन, और साथ में मेंटेनेंस सर्विसेज, क्लाउड स्टोरेज सर्विसेज। सबको वो एक सर्विस मानता, 1 लाख रुपीज का इनवॉइस रेज होता था, उतना ही रेवेन्यू एक साथ रिकॉग्नाइज होता था। क्या इंडेक्स 115 में भी यही फॉर्मेट चलेगा, या वहां पर कुछ साइंटिफिक मेथड है उसको अनबंडल करने के, स्कैटर करने के? दैट वी विल सी। ठीक है। तो आज का जो टॉपिक है इंडेक्स 115, ये उन एंटिटीज पर एप्लीकेबल होगा जो लिस्टेड एंटिटीज है या इन द प्रोसेस ऑफ लिस्टिंग है, एंड साथ में जिनका नेटवर्थ अगर 250 करोड़ के ऊपर है बट वो अनलिस्टेड है, वहां पर भी इंडेक्स 115 एप्लीकेबल होगा। और वहां पर रेवेन्यू रिकॉग्निशन किस तरीके से कॉन्ट्रास्ट करता है AS9 के साथ में, दैट वी विल सी। ओवर टू यू।
Thank you, sir, for the brief intro. Warm greetings to everybody present. Today, I, Suhana, with Mrigakshi and Ansh, we will be covering the topic Ind AS 115, Revenue from Contract with Customers. First of all, Ind AS 115 is basically principle-based framework, and the revenue, which is a critical element of the financial statement, is directly impact the profitability, valuation, and stakeholders' perception. It is a single unified model, and it also replaces multiple earlier revenues, which is said by Sir. Ind AS 115 also applies across industries in many transaction types, which we will see in further slides. Some of the key definitions which will be covered in this Ind AS will be first, customer. Who is a customer? Customer is a party with whom we get into a contract to sell the goods and services in exchange of a consideration in the ordinary course of business. Now, what is a contract? A contract is basically an agreement between two parties which legally binds both the parties in the rights and obligations which are approved by both the parties. It can be written, it can be oral, or it can be implied by entities or customary business practices. What is revenue? Revenue is basically a narrow term than income. Revenue is itself an income which is arising in the ordinary course of business, while income is a bigger term than revenue. It includes all the economic benefits during the accounting period in the form of inflows, enhancement of assets, or decrease of the liabilities. Now let us understand a case scenario to get an idea of how we can identify if a person is a customer or not. In this case scenario, there is a company called as Cybernet company, and let us take an assumed party, say Mr. X, who is a publisher company, and another party, say Mr. B, is a advertiser company. In this case scenario, Cybernet Limited provides internet-based services, advertising services from to publishing companies. And let us take case one. Cybernet companies pre-purchases the advertisement straight from the publisher company and then provide it to the advertiser who want to get themselves advertised. In second scenario, what happens is Cybernet Limited provides the services of matching the advertisers with the publishers. In the first case, what Cybernet is doing, it purchases the advertising space and then provide it to the advertisers. In this case, Cybernet is assumed to be the principal, and Mr. A, who is taking the advertising services, is a customer to Cybernet Limited. In the second case, since the Cybernet is providing service of matching advertisers, he's acting as an agent. So we cannot say that Mr. A is a customer to Cybernet. Now, the key objective of Ind AS 115 is nature, amount, timing, and uncertainty. By nature, we means what entity provides to the customer, what all goods and services are being provided, and what are all other performance obligations which need to be performed in a contract. The second element is amount. Amount is basically the consideration which an entity expect to receive. It can be fixed or it can be variable, and all the discounts, rebates, incentives, etc. are adjusted in that consideration. The third element is timing, that when an entity should recognize that revenue, whether it should recognize at a point of time or over the period of time. The fourth point is uncertainty. Uncertainty basically means the risk of revenue reversal or impact of the variable consideration. The scope of Ind AS 115, it basically covers all kind of industries which Ind AS 115 applies to all the contracts with customer for transfer of goods and services, ensuring consistency across industries. And these industries include manufacturing concerns, constructions, IT services, telecom services, or real estate services, or any other kind of services which is being provided by the entity. But it does not include some of the contracts like lease contracts, which is covered within the scope of Ind AS 116. Insurance contract, which is covered under Ind AS 104, now it is replaced by Ind AS 117. Financial instrument and other contractual rights and obligations, which are covered under Ind AS 109, 110, 111, Ind AS 27, and Ind AS 28. Some non-monetary exchanges are also outside the scope of Ind AS 115. Let us take an example of this fourth point. Say there are two industries who work in the same line of business, say sugar. If one entity can also provide help to the other entity by providing supplies to the other industries at the time of rise in demand or at a basis of timeliness. So my first question to the online participants: which of the following contracts falls within the scope of Ind AS 115? Option A is the lease contract, where an entity provides industrial machinery to a customer for a period of 5 years. Option B is a monetary exchange of oil between two oil companies to satisfy local customer demand in different regions on a timely basis. Option C is a contract with a real estate developer for the purchase of residential apartment. Option D is a contract where a counterparty collaborates with an entity to share the risk and benefits of developing a new technology.
Devika Shah.
Option C, a contract with a real estate developer for the purchase of residential apartment.
Yes, it's a correct answer. Now, what is the core principle around which this Ind AS revolves? The core principle of this Ind AS is recognizing the revenue in a manner that shows a transfer of goods and services, and the amount that reflects the consideration which will be received in exchange of goods and services by the entity or the entity expects to be entitled. To achieve this core principle, a five-step model is made. That is the five-step revenue recognition model. The first step in this revenue recognition model is identifying the contract. First, we have to identify whether a contract is valid and it exists in accounting purposes. There are two types of contract: a legal contract and an accounting contract. This Ind AS talks about the accounting contracts. Step 2 is identifying the performance obligation. It means what all promises are being made by the entities and what all promises are made by the customer. For an entity, the promise is basically to provide the goods and services, and for the customer, it will be the consideration which need to be paid in exchange of goods and services. The third step is determining the transaction price. It means to calculate the considerations which is expected for satisfying the obligation. The fourth point is allocation of transaction price to the performance obligation in the contract. In a contract, there can be multiple performance obligation, or it can be a single performance obligation. So the allocation of transaction price will be talked in step number 4. Step number 5 is recognizing the revenue. Recognizing the revenue as and when the entity satisfies its performance obligation, whether the revenue needs to be recognized at a point of time or over a period of time. Now let us talk about all these points in detail. Step number 1 is identifying the contract. So there is a criteria for recognizing a contract. An accounting contract exists only when these all 5 conditions are fulfilled. Point number 1 is the approval. there should be approval by both the parties, that is entity and the customer, which says that they both are committed to perform their contractual obligation. The second point is right identifiable. The entity can identify each party's right regarding the goods and services are clearly identifiable. It means that both the parties understand their rights and their obligation in the contract. Payment terms, the entity can identify the payment terms for the goods and services. It means that the payment term, whether they will be paying in half, in installment or lump sum. It should also contain a commercial substance. The contract has a commercial substance with respect of goods and services. By commercial substance, we basically means a significant change that is made in exchange of goods and services, which affect the economic position of an entity. Fifth point is collection probable. It is a probable that entity will collect substantially all of the consideration which he is entitled to. Now there can be a chance that all the conditions are not met. In this case also, entity may transfer the good or services to the customer and receive a non-refundable consideration. For example, say token money, which is being received, which is non-refundable. In this case, the entity will not recognize this income as a revenue for its business, rather than it will be recognizing it as a liability. If these 2 points, any of the 2 points is met, then it can recognize this income as a revenue. The first point is step 1 criteria subsequently met. That is, the 5 points which we discussed earlier in the slide are then met. Then it can recognize that income as a revenue. Or the second point, the contract has been terminated, or that no remaining obligation is left. Let's take an example to understand this concept. For example, say Mr. X wants to buy a house from Mr. Y, and for rupees 10,000 is given to Mr. Y. In this case, Mr. X is the customer and Mr. Y is a seller. The point of view of seller, he will recognize this income as a liability until either the 5 steps is fulfilled or the contract is terminated. Now, if after 15 days, Mr. X changes his mind and he no longer wants to buy that house, then the token money of rupees 10,000 will be forfeited, and then it can be recognized as a revenue since the contract is terminated. Now, let us understand a case scenario similar to this example. In this case scenario, P Limited agrees to sell 1,000 bath fittings, which is made using a customized tool, and it is applied by a specific vendor. The payment term is not yet finalized in this case, and Mr. P receives token money of rupees 1,000 from Mr. X, who is the customer in this case. Now, how will this rupees 1,000 be dealt by Mr. P? In this case, the entity shall account for a contract with a customer that is within the scope of this standard only when if the 5 conditions are met or the contract is terminated. In accordance with the above, in the given case, since the payment terms are not identified, because the payment terms are not identified, that is one point of the 5 conditions are not met. The said contract does not meet all the criteria of paragraph number 9. Hence, it cannot recognize the amount of rupees 1,000 as revenue. He has to recognize that as a liability. Now, there is another concept, that is contract term. An entity shall apply the standard to the duration of the contract. Let's say there is a contract of 3 years and both the parties are involved in the contract, but there is also a condition that this contract can be terminated by either of the parties in 1 year, after 1 year. In this case, the beginning of the contract starts when the approval is gained by both the parties and when the performance are satisfied or terminated. It also includes only the period where the enforceable rights and obligation exist. There can also be a termination provision in this contract term. Some of the contracts that can be terminated by either of the party, or it may only be terminated by one party. Let's say in our example, we have also given the condition that the contract can be terminated in 1 year. If each party to a contract will unilateral enforceable right to terminate a wholly unperformed contract without paying a substantive termination penalty, Contracts still exist only if termination results in compensation, but it is not compulsory. It can be decided by any rights and obligation between the parties involved. The other concept, combining contracts. Let us start this by taking up an example. Say Reliance Jio provides an internet services of rupees 10,000, and in that services, internet network package is included, router is included, and in the installation fees, installation services also included. Now, it is a if two or more contract may be needed to accounted for a single contract, if they are entered at a near or same time or with the same customer, and if any one of the following condition exists. First condition, the contract are negotiated as a single price. In our example, rupees 10,000 is a single price for all the three services, that is network service, router service, and installation service. Point number B, the amount of consideration paid in one contract depends on the price of the performance of the other contract. In our example, internet network plan is the principal performance, and with that, router and installation fees is also dependent on that contract. The goods or service promised in the contract are a single performance obligation. Since all the three services are built together, it is a single performance obligation. Now, a question for offline participant. Which of the following is not a criteria for identifying a contract under paragraph 9 of Ind AS 115? Option A, contract has commercial substance. Option B, payment terms can be identified. Option C, consideration has been received in cash. And option C, collectability of the consideration is probable. Yes, option C is the correct answer. Now there is one concept, contract modification. Deletion, or any kind of alteration in the contract, we need to identify that modification. A contract modification will exist if the three conditions are met. The first condition is there is a change in the scope, price, or both in a contract. Example of all these points will be covered later. Or there is a change. Either there is a change in the scope, it can be happen that a new service is added, or the service which is existing can be removed. A price can be increased or decreased, or both in a contract. That the change is approved by both the parties. The change which has been made in the contract should be approved by both the parties, the entity as well as the customer. And change is also enforceable, means it should be binding to both entity and customer. Now, the modification can be accounted in two ways. First, that modification constitute a separate contract. If any modification happens in a contract, it can lead to a separate contract, or if a modification happened, it may continue or get involved in the running contract. Now, the first part, modification that constitutes separate contract, it is treated as a separate contract if both the condition need is satisfied. First, increase in the scope by adding new goods and services that are distinct, or increase in the contract price reflects the standalone selling price of the additional goods and service. By goods and service being distinct, it basically means that the goods are not related to each other or are not dependent on each other. Let us take an example of this case. Say Mr. A, who is a customer, provides a service to Mr. B. Sorry, Mr. A, who is a customer, he gets a service from Mr. B, who is a service provider in this case. He wants his house to be painted in 25 days, and for each day he will be paid 1,000 per day. That means total transaction price would be 25,000. If after 15 days, one more contract is given by Mr. B, by Mr. A to Mr. B, say farmhouse painting is added as a new service in the same contract for 12 days, and for each day 1,000 rupees will be paid. It will be treated as a separate contract in this case, since a new service is added and the amount is also standalone price. Second point, modification that do not constitute separate contracts. The first point in this case is if new goods or services are distinct from goods and services in original contract, but price is not standalone. Let us continue with the same example. The original contract exists of 25 days. 25 days of 1,000 per day rupees, that is 25,000 rupees of transaction price. that is of house painting. And after 15 days, revenue was booked date, that is for 15 days, which is 15 into 1,000, 15,000 rupees is booked till date. Then the modification comes that he also wants his farmhouse to get painted, which is a new service which is being added to the running services. He wants his farmhouse painted in 12 days and a new amount that is of rupees 700 per day is decided. This rupees 700 per day is discounted rate because this is a new service and an old service already exists. Now accounting for this will be done prospectively. Prospective accounting will be done. The pending part of the old contract, that is 10 days were left. 10 days will be multiplied by the old contract price, that is rupees 1,000 per day, which comes out 10,000 rupees. And a new contract rate, that is 12 days multiplied by 700 per day rupees, which comes out to be 8,400 rupees. The total amount of 18,400 will be then divided by 22 days and we'll get an average rate of rupees 836.36 per day. Now, from 16th day, each revenue will be recognized at rupees 836.36. Now, point number B, constitutes B is remaining goods and services are not distinct and part of performance obligation that is partially satisfied. Let us continue the same example. Original contract exists of 25 days at rupees 1,000 per day, that is 25,000 rupees. After 15 days, revenue is booked till date of rupees 15,000. On 16th day, say Mr. A asked for an additional service, additional days. Mr. A asked for another additional 7 days at rupees 800 per day. Now, this additional service is not a new service. It is a continuation of the old contract. Rupees 800 per day is for the original contract only, which is being charged. Now, accounting for this will be done on a cumulative catch-up basis, that is retrospectively. If the company that this modification will come in on the first day of the contract, then how he will account that modification. For 25 days, 1,000 rupees is being charged. For 7 days, 800 rupees is being charged. That total comes out to be 30,600 for 32 days. And we get an average price of rupees 956.25 per day revenue. Revenue should be booked at a rate of 956.25 per day for 15 days, which comes out to be 14,343.75. But actual revenue which we booked earlier was of 15,000. So the excess booking of revenue should have to be reversed. That is of 656.25. Now from 16th day, each day revenue will be booked at rupees 956.25. The next concept, long-term arrangement concept. Say there's a 3-year maintenance agreement which is considered to be a single performance obligation if there is no cancellation clause in it. If there exists a 3-year maintenance contract, it can be treated as a 3-year services contract as a 3 separate 1-year performance obligation. In a long-term service agreements, when the consideration is fixed, accounting contract. Annual maintenance contract, monthly service for maintaining the elevator in a commercial building demonstrate the series of the contract. If it is an unbreakable or non-cancelable contract, it will be termed as a single performance obligation. If it is cancelable at each year, then it will be a multiple performance obligation. Revenue will be recognized evenly or over a contract period. Question number 3 for the online participant. Which condition is not required for a valid contract under Ind AS 115? Option A, commercial substance. Option B, written agreement. Option C, collectability probability. Or option D, identifiable payment terms.
Divyansh Sharma. Divyansh Sharma.
The answer is C.
The answer is wrong. The correct answer is option B.
किसी और में पूछता हूँ कैसे पूछूं?
The same question for the offline participants. Which condition is not present, is not required for a valid contract under Ind AS 115? Option A, commercial substance. Option B, written agreement. Option C, collectability probability. Option D, identifiable payment terms. Written agreement. It's a correct answer.
तो वन पे पूछ रहे पीछे जाना है इसका करने का शायद नहीं जाना कौन सी स्लाइड ऊपर
Example.
हाँ 23
Accumulator capture.
Yes.
इसमें रेवेन्यू शुड बी बुक 32 into 956.25 14370.75 कैसे बोले अब मैं मल्टीप्लाई कर रहा हूँ तो 30,000 कुछ आ रहा है
Actually, 15 days, 15 days plus time.
The revenue should be actually, if it's not 32 days, it's 15 days actually. That is why it will be calculated by 15,000. Now we'll move. Now we'll move to the second step of FIVE model, our FIVE model in recognizing the revenue. The second step is identifying the performance obligation. Performance obligation is basically a promise to transfer to the customer either a good or service that is distinct. A good or service that is distinct, that means which it is not interrelated with each other, or a series of distinct good or services that are substantially the same and that have the same pattern of transfer. At contract At contract inception, an entity shall assess A, the good or service promised in a contract, and B, it shall identify performance obligation under each promise. Now, what is the criteria for goods or service to be distinct? There is a two-step model to identify which goods or services are distinct. Step 1 is focusing on whether the goods or service is capable of being distinct, how we can classify whether a good is distinct. We can understand this if two goods are not related to each other or they are independent of each other, or it can be readily available for using. Step number 2, focus on whether the goods or service is distinct in the context of contract. The entity's promise to transfer the goods or service to the customer is separately identifiable from the promises in the contract. Let us take a practical example of performance obligation identification, how we can classify whether performance is a multiple performance obligation or a single performance obligation. We have to see whether there are multiple promise of goods or services which are distinct. If they are distinct, yes, then it will be termed as a multiple performance obligation. If they are not distinct, either they are related to each other, then it will be a single performance obligation. Let us take an example. Say customized software is being provided to any customer with the installation charges. Then this will be a single performance obligation since the installation charges are being charged of the customized service which is being installed. The second example, mobile handset plus a network plan. Since they can be sold separately also, they will be termed as a multiple performance obligation. Now, what is the series of distinct goods and services? Let us take an example. If I get a subscription of a magazine, which I will be receiving weekly, then it will not be classified as 52 different multiple obligation. It will be considered as a single performance obligation only. And the entity is required to treat that series as a single performance obligation. That is, it is not optional, it is mandatory. Few more examples of series of distinct goods or services are cleaning services, transaction services, or delivering the electricity to consumer. Question number 4 for online participants. XYZ Limited enters into a contract with a customer to deliver machinery along with installation services. The machinery can function independently and the customer can arrange installation from other vendors as well. The installation service does not significantly modify or customize the machinery. How should XYZ Limited identify the performance obligation?
निष्ठा संघी, निष्ठा, राधिका,
Nishta Sangeet this side.
yeah,
The answer is option B. Machinery and installation are distinct and should be treated as separate performance obligations.
Yes, the answer is correct. Let us take one more case scenario to understand single performance obligation and separate performance obligation. In this scenario, the client is an original equipment manufacturer, that is OEM, and there is a contractor, say company A. He is an auto component supplier. In this contract is made to supply the specialized tooling for a total of rupees 5 lakh. There's a two process involved in this case. First, create a specific design and get it approved by OEM. And second, manufacture the physical tool based on that design. Now the question arises, are designing and tooling two separate performance obligation, or it can be combined as a single performance obligation? This can be answered and the two outcomes can be generated. Outcome A will be a single performance obligation. The criteria for deciding whether it is a single performance obligation or not is that the services are highly interrelated and interdependent on each other. And the logic behind is the design is so complex and specialized that company A is providing significant integration services and no other vendors in the market can provide the same services. So the revenue will be recognized for a combined output. Now, another outcome is also possible, that is separate performance obligation. The criteria for deciding this can be the customer can benefit from each service on its own or with other resources. And the logic behind this is the design is so standard or customer that any other vendor in the market can provide the same service. So the revenue will be recognized separately for designing the tool. Question for offline participants. Alpha Tech Limited enters into a contract with a client for rupees 1.5 crore to design and develop a customized ERP software. Second, install and integrate the software and provide technical support for 2 years. The software cannot function without installation. Technical support can be provided by other vendors as well, and payments are milestone based. The question is, how many performance obligations exist and how should revenue be recognized? The options are 3 performance obligation, all recognized over the time. Option B, 2 performance obligation, that is software plus installation over time and support over time. Option C is 1 performance obligation, which is recognized at a point of time. And option number D, 2 performance obligations, since all recognized at a point in time. D is the correct answer. That is the 2 performance obligation, software plus installation over time and support over time. That's all from my side. Now, further slides will be covered by Mrigakshi. Covering the measurement part of the 5-step model for revenue recognition, which starts from step number 3, determine the price. But here, before proceeding to know how to measure transaction price, it's quite important to know what is the transaction price. So it's actually how much revenue an entity earns, what an entity expects to receive from its customer in exchange for the goods and services. But remember that it does not include any amount which is collected on behalf of the third party, like GST. So I've given an example for the same. There's a 20,000 fees and at the rate of GST 18%, which gets a final amount of 20,600. So here only 20,000 will be considered as revenue because 3,600 has to be paid to the third party. It's not the entity revenue. The next question for the online participants. किसी का नाम लेना होता है
ठीक है.
Transaction price under Ind AS 115 is A, the list price of the goods, B, the amount of consideration an entity expects to be entitled to, C, the invoiced amounts only, and D, market value of goods.
Naman Jaju.
खुद भी कर सकते हैं.
Option B, the amount of consideration an entity expects to be entitled to.
Correct. The next point is that transaction price can be changed due to the following factors. Now, what are those factors? Variable consideration, significant financing component, non-consideration, and consideration payable to the customer. So we'll go to the first component, which is variable consideration. What is variable consideration? A consideration which is not fixed. It depends upon some future events and it's uncertain, like ban, penalty, bonus. So I'll give you an example for the same. A bookseller have given a contract to a bookbinder to bind a book of 400 pages within a period of 6 months. But it says that if it takes less than 6 months, it will be provided with a bonus of 4,000. But it takes more than 6 months, then he will be charged with a penalty of 6,000. So in this case, both bonus and penalty are variable consideration because it depends upon a future condition, which is completing the work on time. Now, for estimating the variable consideration, there are two methods: expected value method and most likely amount method. Expected value method is the sum of probability weighted amount. Like whatever the multiple outcomes will be there, it will be calculated on the basis of the probability. So we'll just multiply all the outcomes with their probability of occurring and then add them together. And second method is most likely amount. It means that there are only two outcomes possible, and it's kind of a yes or no contract. And the outcome with the most highest probability will be considered as a variable consideration. For example, for expected value method, an entity enters into a contract and it says that if it performs the work on time, he will be provided with a performance bonus. The possible outcomes are 10 lakh bonus with a 70% probability, or 5 lakh bonus with 20% probability, and 2 lakh bonus with 10% probability. So they just multiply all the outcomes with its probability and then add them together, as you can see in the illustrations. Second, most likely outcome killer. An entity enters into a contract and it says that if it completes on time, he will be provided with a bonus of 5 lakh or provided with no bonus. So only two possible outcomes are there, that either a 5 lakh performance bonus or no bonus. And it further says that the probability of giving the bonus is actually 80%. So here the answer will be 5 lakh because its probability of occurring is more. Now, there are some constraints to the variable consideration. Constraints means that there are some cases where an amount will not be considered as a variable consideration and will not be included in the transaction price. The cases are high susceptibility, that is, there are some factors which is outside the entity's control, like market price fluctuations, third-party actions, weather conditions, etc. Second is long resolution period, where it takes time to actually resolve an uncertainty, so it becomes difficult to compute what will be the outcomes. So it becomes difficult to predict the variable consideration in such cases. Thirdly, limited experience. That an entity enters into a contract for the very first time, so it becomes quite difficult then to predict what will be the outcomes in the future. Fourth, broad price range, that is, there are multiple outcomes, so it becomes difficult to predict what will be the variable consideration or what will be the outcome for this. Now, next component is significant financing component. I'll give an example for the same, that I've gone to purchase a laptop from Croma and I've taken the delivery of that laptop on the same day. But I will be making the payment after 2 years. Now, of course, the Croma will charge an interest on the same amount because I'm not paying for that laptop on the similar day. So here, there becomes a difference in the promise consideration, the cash selling price. The price that I would have paid on the delivery date is different from the price I have to pay on the payment date. So that difference amount is actually the interest income or interest expense which the entity will charge from the customer. And that interest income and expense is actually known as a financing component. So there's actually a duration between the delivery date and the payment date. So for illustration, the scenario is the entity sells the machinery on 1st April 2025 and it transfers the control to the customer on the similar date. The customer will actually pay after 2 years, but the price on that 1st April 2025 was 1 lakh. But now, since the customer is paying after 24 months, the seller will charge an interest on the same at rate of 10% per annum. So here, Ind AS 115 says that revenue will be recognized on the delivery date at the delivery date transaction price, and the interest income will not be included into the revenue recognition. So here, revenue will be only for 1 lakh, and interest income 21,000 will be computed on the basis of the EIR. But under AS9, there's no such concept for significant financing component. It will consider the entire 1,21,000 as its revenue and not 1 lakh. Now, financing component does not apply if any of the following factors exist. First, customer discretion. For example, customer has made a payment in advance and an entity provides a voucher for the same. Now it's at the customer's choice whether they want to use that voucher now or after that, and that's create a time difference between the delivery date and the payment date. So secondly, variable consideration. Variable consideration again is uncertain, it depends on future events. For example, sales-based royalty. That revenue will be recognized only when the sales is made. If sale nahi hua, then in that case, मैं revenue recognize नहीं कर पाऊंगी. So that's create a difference between delivery date and the payment date. Thirdly, other reasons like customer protection. That an entity can ask a customer to make a payment in advance because he does not trust that customer कि वो future में payment करेगा कि नहीं करेगा, तो वो advance में payment दे देता है. So that's created a time gap between the delivery and payment date, and this is not because of a financing component. Fourthly, if the difference of time difference between the transfer and the payment date is less than 1 year, then also it is not constituted as a financing component. Now, question for the offline participant. Goods are delivered on 31st March 2025, and the control has also been given to the customer. Invoice raised on 5th April 2025. Payment has been received on 20th April 2025, and revenue should be recognized on A, 5th April 2025, B, 20th April 2025, or C, 31st March 2025, or D, date of contract. Okay, correct. The third component is non-cash consideration, where a customer will provide for the goods and services in a form other than cash. Like it could be equity, it could be advertisement, it could be equipment services, any kind of services, but other than cash. So, for example, an entity provides goods to the customers at the rate of 60,000 rupees, and customer in exchange provides advertising services of rupees 50,000. So, according to Ind AS 115, first preference would be given to the fair value of the non-cash consideration received from the customer. So revenue will be recognized on the fair value of the goods and services provided by the customer and not on the standalone selling price of the goods and services provided by the entity. But in case if fair value has not been given, then we can consider second preference, that is standalone selling price of the goods and services provided by the entity as revenue. Secondly, customer provided goods and services. In this case, if customer wants to purchase a gold chain from a gold company, in that case, the customer will also provide the raw material to produce that gold chain. So if the customer provides the gold of rupees 50 lakhs and gold company will provide gold chain at rupees 59 lakhs to the customer. So revenue will be recognized on the basis whether control has been transferred to the gold company or not. So if the entity transfers the control to the gold company, in that case, fair value will be recognized separately. That is, revenue of 59 lakhs will be considered as sales and purchases of 50 lakhs will be accounted separately. But in case if entity does not get the control of that gold chain, then in that case, revenue will be recognized at net basis. That is 59 lakhs revenue, 9 lakhs revenue will be booked. Fourth component, consideration payable to customer. With three cases there. Firstly, if no distinct goods and services are provided by the customer to the entity. Consideration payable to customer means that entity can provide them with rebates, with cashbacks, with vouchers, etc. So in first case where the customer is not providing anything in exchange of the goods and services by the entity, then in that case, we will recognize the revenue on net basis. For example, like we see that in Paytm, if it says that if you 1,000 rupees payment karoge, then they will provide a cashback of 100 rupees. Then that 100 rupees will be deducted from 1,000 rupees and 9,900 will be considered as a revenue. Second case, where distinct goods and services are provided by the customer to the entity. Maybe two cases are there. Firstly, if the consideration does not exceed the fair value. For example, entity sells the good at rupees 5 lakh and customer sells the advertising services in return to the entity at rupees 50,000. So if the fair value 50,000 does not exceed fair values, in that case, will account separately, purchase be separately account hoga and sales will also be recorded separately. Second case, third case in which consideration will exceed the fair value. In this case, for example, entity sells a good at an inflated value of 5,50,000 and customer also provides advertising services at an inflated rate of 1 lakh rupees. But here the fair value were 5 lakh and 50,000 in respect of these sales. So since यहाँ पे consideration fair value से exceed हो गई है, then in that case both sale and purchases की value will be reduced by the inflated amount. 50,000 से increase हो गई है तो 50,000 will be deducted from both sales and purchase और normally fair value पे हम लोग recognize करेंगे हमारी revenue and not at an inflated price. Now there are some examples for the same, like slotting fees. जहाँ पे manufacturer will actually sell its good to the retailer, and retailer in exchange will charge some slotting fees charge. उसको show करने के लिए अपनी shop पे कुछ charge करेगा fees from the customer. तो यहाँ पे manufacturer is actually receiving an amount on selling its product and also have to pay something amount for keeping their product on the shelf of the retailers. So in this case कोई distinct goods and services नहीं दे रहा है in exchange, और यहाँ पे net basis पे हम लोग show करेंगे. For example, Puma store ने sale करी है 10 लाख रुपीस की to Lifestyle, और Lifestyle exchange charge करता है Puma से shelf price of 50,000 rupees. So यहाँ पे gross 10 लाख का है and will reduce 50,000 the slot fees from 10 lakh and revenue will be recognized at 9,50,000 rupees on net basis. Secondly, cooperative advertising. Vendor will reimburse the reseller for the advertising costs. For example, mobile company has been sold to the retailer at rupees 10 lakh, and retailer in exchange is providing advertising services. So a distinct good and service is being provided by the retailer. So यहाँ पे advertising is a distinct service. Now it will be revenue will be recognized on gross item, that is 10 lakh, but again it depends upon facts and circumstances whether to recognize it on net basis or gross basis. Now thirdly is price protection. Vendor will reimburse the retailer for the sales price shortfall. For example, if a retailer ABC Limited says to a distributor that he will sell the product of 1 lakh rupees on 1st April, and it says in the contract that अगर 3 महीने बाद मेरी प्राइस रिड्यूस हो जाती है, then that case वो नेट बेसिस पे जो रिडक्शन प्राइस है उसको रिड्यूस कर देगा 1000 से, and will provide that amount at the reduced price net basis पे. अगर 1000 रुपए में बेचा था और 100 रुपए से गिर गई प्राइस, then that case वो 900 पे अपनी रेवेन्यू रिकॉग्नाइज करेगा, not at 1000. Next step number 4, allocating transaction price. The transaction price will be allocated to the performance obligation on the basis of the standalone selling price of those products. But again, there is some other accounting process for allocating discounts and allocating variable consideration. For example, there is a total transaction price of 50,000 rupees, and have to allocate that transaction price between product Y and Z. And standalone selling price of Y and Z is 25,000 and 45,000 respectively. So how will they allocate the price? Transaction price into standalone selling price of Y divided by total standalone selling price of Y and Z. So I've shown here that 50,000 into 25,000 जो standalone selling price Y की है, divided by 70,000. जो 25,000 plus 45,000 जो standalone selling price of Y और Z की sum कर आएगा. Similarly, Z में भी ऐसे ही होगा. Next, determining standalone selling price. अगर standalone selling price हमें directly नहीं given, in that case we can estimate on the basis of 3 methods. First, we can take the price of the competitors. Secondly, हम लोग cost plus margin approach choose कर सकते हैं, that is cost plus profit basis पे, and residual approach. For residual approach, I'll give an example. Entity enters into a contract to sell product A, B, and C, and for that the total consideration is 25,000 rupees. Standalone selling price of A and B is being given, that is 8,000 and 7,000 respectively, but standalone selling price of C is not given. So in that case, residual allocation कैसे होगा? SSP of A and B का sum लगाएंगे, which is 15,000, and that will be deducted from the total consideration of 25,000. So C का जो हमें revenue मिलेगा, that is 10,000 rupees. Now, how will we allocate discounts? There's a general principle that discounts will also be allocated on the basis of the standalone selling price only, but there are some exception rules too. An entity sells a small bundle of distinct goods and services at a discount, and each product has been sold at discount only. For example, एक transaction price combo की दे रखी है 8,000 रुपए की, and SSP for A and B 8,000 each दे रखी है, which makes a total SSP of 16,000. Combo मेरा 8,000 का ये, that means a discount of 8,000 has been given, and then 8,000 will be allocated between A and B on the basis of transaction price. But what is the exception rule? कि next illustration में entity sell करती है A, B, C, D, और उसकी total consideration is 20,000. SSP is 8,000, 8,000, 6,000, 6,000 respectively, which makes a total of SSP of 28,000. Now here the entity is selling the combo at a total consideration of 20,000, which he is giving the discount of rupees 8,000 rupees. Now 8,000 since small bundle पे A और B पे वो discount मिल जाता है 8,000 का, तो in that larger bundle also A और B में ही discount allocate होगा and not to C and D. तो यहाँ पे जो allocation होगा will be not on the basis of the SSPs. Next is variable consideration का allocation. Variable consideration can be allocated या तो entire contract पे या फिर specific entire contract. For example, entity says कि अगर total purchase will exceed 5 crore rupees, it will provide a rebate of 5%. So यहाँ पे the variable consideration will be allocated to the entire contract because entire contract की बात करी जाती है. Secondly, specific part पे for complete. So in this case, it will be allocated to that phase one only and not to the entire contract. The price changes after contract inception, after contract has been started. अगर transaction price में कोई changes आते हैं, then they will be calculated on the basis of contract modification. That we have already covered in step number 1. Now, step number 5, recognizing revenue as and when the entity satisfies operation. So, when will the entity recognize the revenue? It will recognize the revenue only when the entity has completed its obligation, a performance obligation of providing goods and services to the customer. But when will customer got the control of the asset? They will get the control if they have used that asset and if they get the benefit from that asset. The key question is, when does the customer obtain the control of that asset? The key indicators are: first, right to payment. If the entity has got the right to receive the payment, in that case, transfer will be considered. Then second case, legal title. Customer has got the legal title of the asset. The physical possession of the asset has been given, or risks and reward has been transferred by the seller to the buyer, and asset acceptance by the customer. So what is the timing of control transfer? Timing, it could be over the period of time revenue recognized हो सकता है, on the basis of point in time पे हो सकता है. Over a period में, any of the 3 conditions are fulfilled, that is, revenue will be recognized over a period of time and not on the basis of at a point in time. First condition is consumer simultaneously receives and consumes benefits. मतलब work भी progress हो रहा है और work progress के बीच में customer is also getting the benefits from the product. Secondly, entity performance creates or enhances an asset controlled by the customer. For example, customer के ही product, customer के car पे paint कर रहे हैं, for example, या दूसरा हम customer की land पे construct कर रहे हैं building. तो customer के asset पे कोई काम हो रहा है, then that case revenue will be recognized over a period of time. Thirdly, asset has no alternative use. That is, asset customized किया गया है and it cannot be used for any other purpose. It cannot be sold to any other customer. And cancellation, entity is receiving cost plus profit margin. Then in that case, entity can recognize the revenue over a period of time. But there is an exception to this case. अगर cancellation पे cost plus reasonable profit margin नहीं मिलता, then in that case, और अगर सिर्फ small penalty मिलती है termination में, then that case हम लोग at a point in time पे revenue recognize करेंगे. और अगर तीनों में से कोई भी condition fulfill नहीं होती है, then in that case at a point in time पे हम लोग revenue recognize करेंगे. So there is a case study on the same. Company A ने manufacture करा turbine which is specially designed for the customer, customized की गई है at the customer specification. But and this cannot be sent to any other person. Why? Because higher modification charges लग जाएंगे. और यहाँ पे contract में लिखा हुआ है that on termination, customer will have to pay cost plus the profit margin. तो यहाँ पे 2 चीजें fulfill हो रही है third condition की, that there is no alternative use because alternative use पे बहुत high modification cost लगेगी. And secondly, the company has the right to receive the payment. So cost plus profit मिलेगा as per the contract. So in this case, the revenue will be recognized over the period of time because it satisfies the third condition. Now, question for the online participants. Revenue is recognized over time if A, customer simultaneously receives and consumes benefits, B, asset is created for general use, C, payment is deferred, or D, price is variable.
रुद्रास रुद्रास अग्रवाल and लावण्य.
The answer to this question would be A.
It's a correct answer. Measuring progress over the period of time. There are 2 methods to measure the progress over the period of time. First, output-based method, and secondly, input-based method. Output-based methods में जैसे work complete होगा, वैसे revenue will be recognized. For example, surveys of performance completed, appraisals of result achieved, milestone reach हो गई है, या units have been delivered. Input-based method में revenue will be recognized. कितना cost लगा है उसके basis पे, या कितने hours में inputs लगा, in that basis revenue will be recognized. For example, resources consumed, labor hours expended, costs incurred, time elapsed, or machine hours used. Illustration for the same. Revenue recognized May contract price is 10 lakh rupees. Cost incurred हुई है till date is 4 lakh and total estimated cost is 8 lakh. Revenue recognized कैसे हो गया on the basis of both methods यहाँ पे show करेंगे. Input based method पे cost to cost. कि कितना कॉस्ट लगा तो कॉस्ट इनकर्ड हुई 4 लाख की एंड द टोटल कॉस्ट एस्टिमेट वाज 8 लाख सो 4 lakh divided by 8 lakh into 100 that gives us 50% of work completion and 50% will be multiplied by the contract price that is 10 lakh so 5 lakh will be recognized as revenue till date. Secondly, output based method. Progress will be measured on the basis of कितना काम complete हुआ. So if it says that 50% of the construction is completed, then revenue will be recognized as 50% into 10 lakhs, that is 5 lakh rupees from revenue recognized करेंगे. Now, there are special guidance for input methods. Firstly, we have to ignore the abnormal losses. Now, what are the abnormal losses? जैसे fire accidents हो गए या machine breakdowns होता है. Secondly, unused material will be ignored, will be excluded from the cost considerations. Unused material will recognize only to the extent of the cost incurred on that material. अगर purchase का in that case में purchase वाला part include होगा. Straight line method में input and cost are incurred evenly throughout the performance period. In that case, straight line method will be applied simply. Question for the online participants. Contract revenue is 8 lakh. Cost incurred till date is 2 lakhs. Estimated total cost is 5 lakh and revenue recognized till date is A 2 lakh, B 3 lakh 20,000, C 4 lakh and D 5 lakh.
Aditya Maheshwari. Aditya Maheshwari.
Hello.
हाँ.
Option is option B. Answer is option B. 3,20,000.
Correct. Now there is a case study. A telecom operator have given a monthly plan of say rupees 300 in which customer will be provided with call minutes every month. अगर unused minute है उसमें से it will be carry forward, it will be deferred for 2 months. After 2 months, that unused minutes will be expired. An operator has a history of strictly enforcing the expiry. अगर expired हो गया, in that case expired हो गया. So revenue is linked to the usage of minute and not time. Customer will receive the benefit only when minutes are used. So revenue will be recognized on actual calls being made. So in case of unused minutes, it will be considered as a contract liability because customer has already paid for it. Service is still pending. So unused minutes are shown as contract liability and not treated as a table. If the operator has liability estimated the unused minutes, part of the revenue is recognized along with used minutes. So this increases the revenue per minute used. Agar finally minutes expired ho jate hain, in that case, the remaining unused balance will be considered as revenue. Why? Because firstly, the customer has made the payment for the same and customer ka expired ho gaya because they haven't used it. So in short, अगर यूज कर लिया minutes, it will be recognized as revenue. अगर unused है, it will be considered as a liability. अगर expired है, in that case, it will be considered as a revenue. But there are some real life examples where some entity have also used Ind AS 115. For example, for allocating transaction price, like Airtel does this. जहाँ पे उनके पास mobile headset या SIM data plans free subscriptions अगर वो एक साथ in combo बेचते हैं, in that case, transaction price will be allocated to the distinct performance obligation based on their relative standalone selling price. Similarly, for customer payments made to the customer payable consideration payable to the customer, HUL use करता है, वो shelf space देता है, slot and fees charge करता है from the customers और जितने भी इनके annual report में जो जाता है इसी तरीके से revenue को recognize किया जाता है. Thirdly, ITCP अगर कैश डिस्काउंट या ट्रेड स्कीम्स देती है तो वो भी उसको नेट बेसिस पे दिखाती है. Done from my side.
You can present it.
So continuing the presentation, let's discuss some special cases given under Ind AS 115. First case is principal versus agent. Now let's understand who is the principal and who is an agent. Okay, so first case is principal versus agent.
Date.
So let's understand who is the principal and who is an agent. A principal is the one who controls the specified goods or service before it is transferred to customer. And the agent is the one who arranges for the entity for purchasing those goods. There are some key indicators to identify who is the principal. First is the one who has the primary responsibility for fulfilling the contract. Second, the one who has the inventory list before it is transferred to the customer. And third, the one who has dominance and discretion in setting prices. Now, how it is accounted? The principal has to recognize revenue at the gross amount. That is, he has to book the expense at expense of commission or anything. And the agent has to recognize revenue at the net amount. That is the commission or fees amount. Let's take an example of online food delivery platform. If a customer orders something from a restaurant, say it orders through Zomato, then if Zomato is delivering the good, it is acting as an agent and the restaurant is principal. Now the restaurant will book its service at the gross amount while the agent, that is Zomato, it will book its service at the net amount, that is the commission amount. Second point is non-refundable upfront fees. Now what happens when sometimes entering into a contract, parties eventually take some upfront fees, which is non-refundable in nature. So payment received from customer before goods or service are delivered, which is non-refundable in nature, and there are two conditions. It can be related to a service or good. If it is related to a specific good or service, then it is a separate performance obligation, and the revenue will be booked based on when the service is provided over time. If it does not relate to another specific good or service, it's not a separate obligation and revenue is recognized over the period when original performance obligation is satisfied. Let's see a numerical illustration. Here it is given, a company है web solutions करके जो एक non-refundable upfront fees charge कर रही है 5,000 की for website setup. It is also acting as an agent for hosting, earning a 10% commission on 10,000 per month hosting fees over 12 months. It does not control the hosting services. Now this upfront fees is for setup service. It's a distinct service. So the revenue will be booked over the period, that is 12 months. 5,000 divided by 12, 416.67 per month. And the hosting commission, which is monthly given by the company, it is being booked at 10% of 10,000. 10% of 10,000, 1,000 per month. Now you can see the journal entries. Let's see the journal entry. When booking the 5,000 commission amount, when we receive the amount 5,000, it will be booked as contract liability. And when it will be utilized monthly, then the contract liability will be debited and the revenue for setup service will be credited. And the commission income which is received monthly, 1,000 rupees. Straight away, booking entry will be passed for it. Question number 1 for online participants. An entity charges a non-refundable upfront fees at the start of contract which does not relate to a distinct good or service. How should the fees be accounted for under Ind AS 115? A. Recognized immediately as revenue. B. Recognized when contract is signed. Deferred. C. Deferred and recognized over the period of related service. D. Recognized when cash is received.
Devanshi. Anushka and Devanshi.
Deferred and recognized.
Devanshi, repeat again.
Sir, answer is C. That word is recognized over the period of service.
ठीक बोला.
C, right answer. Okay, now the third point is customer option for additional goods or services. So in some contracts, when a customer buys a product or service, he gets an additional good or service, which provides a material right to customer. This material right is it is greater than the discount which is typically offered to general customers. This type of material right, if exists, it constitutes as a separate performance obligation. Now, how we have to allocate this and how we will recognize it in the books. Allocation will be done by, we'll see. We have to allocate it on the basis of standalone selling price of the initial good and service of the material right and standalone selling price of the option, adjusted with the probability of using it. And when it will be booked when the option is exercised or if the option expires. Example of it can be discount voucher. Let's see an illustration. A retailer sells a jacket for rupees 2000. Along with the jacket, the customer receives a coupon of rupees 500 discount on a further purchase valid for 6 months. Standalone selling price of jacket is rupees 2000. Standalone selling price of coupon estimated value considering likelihood of redemption rupees 400. It is rupees 400 because probability of taking it has been considered in it. Allocation is based on the relative asset fees. Now we see the jacket's revenue. We have to divide rupees 2000 in 2000 and rupees 400 for coupon amount. So if we divide it, it's 1667 for jacket and 333 for coupon. So contract liability for rupees 333, that is the coupon amount, will be recognized and it will be booked as revenue when the coupon expires or it is redeemed by the customer. Question number 2. A company sells a product for
Online,
rupees 12. Offline. For offline participants. A company sells a product for rupees 12,000 and provides a coupon giving rupees 3,000 discount on a future purchase. The standalone selling price of the coupon, considering probability of redemption, is rupees 2,500 and the product is 11,000. How much revenue should be recognized at time of initial sale? A, 12,000, B, 11,000, C, 10,286, and D, 9,777.
होगा भी क्या नहीं? सामने आ जाए तो चेयर खाली पड़ी है. चलो
Offline participant.
पूछ लेंगे इससे. डी बता.
Correct answer. Point number 4.
क्या है? ऊपर के
Sale with the right of return.
सामने आ जाओ, चेयर खाली पड़ी है. तो पास में आ जाओ थोड़ा. इधर आ जाओ, सामने आ जाओ. मोबाइल लेके क्यों बैठना है? जस्ट अच्छा.
Point number 4. Sale with the right of return and restocking fees related to it. Let's see what is sale with right of return. Some companies you may know, Amazon अपने को एक सर्विस देता है कि right to return policy अपने को provide करता है. तो जब कोई कंपनी अपने को right to return service provide करे तो जब वो revenue book करेगी, he has to take into contract the expected return. अब जो expected return का revenue है उसको as a contract liability book करना पड़ेगा. So accounting treatment, if we see of it, revenue recognize net of expected returns, refund liability which we recognize for the consideration which is expected to be returned as per the entity. And उसके contrast में एक asset भी create होगा, recognize for the right to recover goods from customer, वो होगा of equivalent amount of cost of sale, जो item अपने को लग रहा है it will be returned to company. Third point is restocking fees. Restocking fees charged on returns represent variable consideration. होता क्या है, कुछ कंपनीज सामने वाले से रीस्टॉकिंग फीस चार्ज करती है फॉर डिलीवरी एंड पैकेजिंग क्योंकि वो दे नो दैट एक्सपेंस हैज बीन इनकर्ड और वो काइंड ऑफ नॉन रिफंडेबल नेचर की होती है. उसको रेवेन्यू रिकॉग्नाइज कर देती है एज एंड व्हेन दे अप्लाई. Let's see an illustration regarding this. There's a scenario, टेक गैजेट करके कंपनी है जो 100 यूनिट सेल कर रही है एक प्रोडक्ट के ₹500 ईच ऑन क्रेडिट। एक्सपेक्ट कर रही है कि 5% ऑफ यूनिट्स रिटर्न हो जाएंगे एंड ईच यूनिट की ₹20 की रीस्टॉकिंग फीस वो लोग इंकर कर रहे हैं। कॉस्ट ऑफ ईच यूनिट इज ₹200। नाउ व्हाइल बुकिंग द रेवेन्यू वी कंसीडर द रिटर्न्स। देयर 100 यूनिट जिस पे 5% रिटर्न एस्टिमेटेड है, मतलब 5 यूनिट्स जिस पे अपने को लगा था रिटर्न होंगे, उन 5 यूनिट्स की जो सेलिंग प्राइस है 500 है, अपन मल्टीप्लाई करें इट विल बी 2500, पर इसमें से अपन जो रीस्टॉकिंग फीस है उसका रेवेन्यू हैंड टू हैंड चार्ज कर देंगे। तो ₹20 ऑन 5 आइटम्स इट विल बी ₹100। That's why refund liability 2400 create होगी। That's why the entry is trade receivable 50,000 to revenue 47,600 to refund liability 2400। इसके अगेंस्ट में कॉस्ट ऑफ गुड्स सोल्ड भी अपने को रिकॉग्नाइज करना पड़ेगा एज एन एसेट, राइट टू रिकवर गुड्स। अपने को लगता है कि 5 आइटम्स वी विल सी दैट दे विल बी रिटर्न टू अस, उनकी एक की कॉस्ट पड़ेगी ₹200। उस अकॉर्डिंग 5 की कॉस्ट पड़ेगी अपने को ₹1000। उसको एज एन एसेट अपने को चार्ज करना पड़ेगा। अगर अपने पास बाद में जाके कोई भी फॉर एग्जाम्पल 1 यूनिट अपने पास रिटर्न हो रहा है, उसकी अपन रिफंड लायबिलिटी रिवर्स करके बैंक से पेमेंट कर देंगे उनको, और जो कॉस्ट ऑफ गुड्स सोल्ड है वो पूरा का पूरा रिवर्स हो जाएगा।
एक एंट्री और होगा इसमें, कौन बता सकता है रेवेन्यू का? जब थर्ड वाला लास्ट वाला इवेंट हुआ ना कि 1 यूनिट रिटर्न हो गया, इट मींस हम एक्सपेक्ट कर रहे थे 5 होगा, बट 1 ही रिटर्न हुआ, 4 नहीं हुआ रिटर्न, राइट? तो एक एंट्री और होगा, हिंट देता हूँ। देखो रिफंड लायबिलिटी हमने ₹2400 क्रिएट किया था पहला एंट्री में, ये सोच के कि 5 रिटर्न हुआ, करेक्ट, बट 1 ही रिटर्न हुआ, तो हमने हमारा रिफंड लायबिलिटी जो ₹2400 क्रिएट किया था हमने रिवर्स कर दिया 480 से, करेक्ट। इसको कैसे क्लोज करेंगे? रिफंड लायबिलिटी का लेजर ऑल टाइम तो खड़ा नहीं रह सकता ना, एंट्री पास है रेवेन्यू बुक होगा। कितने अमाउंट का रेवेन्यू बुक होगा? जो डिफरेंस अमाउंट का 2400 माइनस 480 ₹1920 का रेवेन्यू और बुक होगा, क्योंकि हमने वहां पर रेवेन्यू शॉर्ट बुक कर रखा था। देखो 47,600 का रेवेन्यू बुक कर रखा है, तो उस अमाउंट से हम रेवेन्यू और बुक कर देंगे, जो ये अकाउंट फॉर कर लेगा कि सारा यूनिट का रेवेन्यू बुक हो गया है, सिर्फ एक को छोड़ के ₹500 माइनस 20 ₹480 को छोड़ के बाकी रेवेन्यू बुक हो गया 50,000 में से। अंडरस्टूड?
Next is warranties. Warranties are of two type: assurance and service type warranty. First is assurance warranty. It's kind of guarantee that the product complies with the agreed upon specification. ये kind of compulsory warranty होती है जो attached होती है to the product or service. It's an integral part of that product, so it's not considered as a distinct obligation. Whereas service type warranty additional warranty होती है जो customer को दी जाती है to purchase above the assurance type warranty. It is distinct from the product itself, इसलिए इसका रेवेन्यू भी अलग से रिकॉग्नाइज होगा। इट्स अ डिस्टिंक्ट पीओ। Accounting treatment for warranties. First is assurance warranty, as it is not a separate performance obligation. The revenue will be recognized hand to hand, whereas cost for such warranty will be accrued under Ind AS 37 as a provision. अपने को एक provision की entry pass करनी पड़ेगी। And service warranty, it's a distinct performance obligation, तो revenue defer होगा, recognize होगा over the service जो अपन service warranty में provide कर रहे हैं service period के इसके अंदर। Example, a smartphone comes with a 1 year standard warranty. वो kind of assurance warranty होता है, और उसमें एक option होता है कि अपन purchase कर सकते हैं extended 2 year warranty उसके ऊपर। That's a kind of service type warranty. Numerical illustration regarding this. There's a scenario जहाँ पे XYZ Electronics Limited सेल करता है washing machine 30,000 की with the following warranty terms. First is 1 year standard warranty जो cover कर रही है manufacturing defects को with expected warranty cost of ₹900, and second is optional warranty 2 years के लिए provide हो रही है ₹3,000। अब इसमें assurance warranty तो 1 year की है, तो provision अपन इसमें directly create कर देंगे for expected warranty ₹900 का। इसका रेवेन्यू तभी अपन बुक कर देंगे जब अपन वॉशिंग मशीन की रेवेन्यू बुक करेंगे उस टाइम पे। इट्स नॉट अ सेपरेट परफॉर्मेंस ऑब्लिगेशन, दैट्स व्हाई। एंड द सर्विस टाइप वारंटी इज एक्सटेंडेड वारंटी, तो इसके अंदर जब रेवेन्यू बुक करेंगे अपन ओवर द पीरियड ऑफ 2 years बुक करने वाले हैं। सो द एंट्री इज जब अपन अश्योरेंस वारंटी का बुक करेंगे तो हम प्रोविजन बुक करेंगे, वारंटी एक्सपेंस डेबिट टू प्रोविजन फॉर वारंटी 900, एंड सर्विस टाइप वारंटी के लिए पहले अपने को कॉन्ट्रैक्ट लाइबिलिटी बुक करनी पड़ेगी हैंड टू हैंड, जब अपने को पेमेंट रिसीव होगा 3000 रुपीज से, और फिर एट द एंड ऑफ द ईयर 1 एंड ईयर 2 जब अपना पूरा साल खत्म हो जाएगा, अपन इसके रेवेन्यू एस्टैब्लिशमेंट की एंट्री पास करेंगे 1500 रुपीज से। क्वेश्चन नंबर 3 फॉर ऑनलाइन पार्टिसिपेंट्स। Under India's 115, which of the following statements correctly distinguishes between an assurance warranty and a service type warranty? An assurance warranty provides a service beyond ensuring the product complies with agreed upon specifications. B. A service type warranty is included in the price of the product and do not provide additional services beyond assuring compliance. C. An assurance warranty that the product meets agreed upon specifications and is accounted for as a liability for expected costs. D. A service type warranty guarantees the product compliance with the specification and is not recognized separately from the product warranty.
Versa and Gorvi. Versa.
Sir, option number C.
Correct answer. Point number 6 is consignment arrangement. So what's a consignment? Consignment is an agreement between the consignor and consignee for storage, transfer, sale, resale, etc. अब यहाँ पे भी कुछ key indicators होते हैं. What are they? The manufacturer retains the title of the product. He can request return of the product and can transfer it to any third party. Dealer does not have any unconditional obligation to pay unless the product is sold to any third party. Revenue recognition consignment arrangement. There is a state flow. Goods deliver होंगे to consignee. Consignee उनको sell करेगा to end customer. अब फिर उसमें जो receive होगा revenue, उसमें से वो अपना commission amount deduct करके जो remaining amount होगा वो अपने को remit कर देगा. So goods when consignee sells to the end customer, at that point of time revenue is recognized in books. Example: furniture manufacturer place inventory with a dealer. The manufacturer recognize revenue only when the dealer sells the furniture to a customer. Point number 7: sale and repurchase agreement. An agreement where an entity sells an asset and has an obligation to repurchase the same asset in the future. In this case, we will not recognize any revenue because the customer does not obtain any control for it. He only has a physical possession of the asset. There are two cases in this. First is repurchase price is more than original price. Matlab, what we are paying is more than what we are getting. In this case, this is a kind of financial arrangement where seller is effectively borrowing funds and the difference amount will be recognized as finance cost by us. Case 2 is repurchase price less than original selling price. What we are paying is less than what we are getting. In this case, we are getting kind of income. This is a lease contract where seller retains the significant control. Customer only get the right to use it. Repurchase price makes economically certain and treated as a lease. So the difference amount will be booked as a lease rent. Here's an example. ABC Limited sells machine for rupees 50,000 and agrees to buy back it after 1 year for 55,000. The arrangement is a financing transaction. In this case, you can see repurchase price is more than what we are paying. What we are getting, sorry. Question number 4 for offline participants. XYZ Limited sells machinery to a customer for 10 lakh on 1st January 2026 with an agreement to repurchase it after 1 year for 10,50,000. The machinery originally costed rupees 8 lakh. According to India's 115, how should XYZ account for this transaction? A. Recognize the sale of rupees 10 lakh and COGS of 8 lakh with a profit of 2 lakh. B. Do not recognize the sale. Treat the cash received as financial liability of 10 lakh and recognize 50,000 as finance cost. C. Do not recognize the sale. Treat the cash received as financial liability of 10 lakh and recognize 50,000 as lease rent. D. Recognize the profit of 50,000 immediately and the rest as deferred revenue. Right answer B. Now, 8th point is bill and hold agreement. So what's a bill and hold agreement? An entity bills a customer. Product is in a deliverable state, but retain physical possession until a later date on the request of customer. What are the conditions for revenue recognition? There are 4 points. First, revenue should be, the reason for this arrangement should be substantive. Second, product is ready for transfer. Third, entity cannot use or direct product to another customer and customer has taken its legal title. Example, a customer requests delayed delivery of a custom made product due to storage constraints. So it's a kind of substantive reason. That's why bill and hold agreement can be classified under this agreement. Numerical illustration. ABC Limited sells goods to XYZ for 1 lakh rupees on 20th March under a bill and hold agreement. XYZ company requests delayed delivery under 30th June due to warehouse relocation. The goods are segregated and redeemed. Additionally, on April 1, 2024, ABC Limited sells equipment to PQR for the repurchase option for PQR to sell it back at 52,000 on July 1, 2024. If we see in this, there's a bill and hold agreement. Why? Because delivery is delayed on the request of customer, reason is substantive, and the goods are segregated and ready, but they are in dispatchable form. So we'll recognize revenue on 20th March instead of 30th June. Second is sale and repurchase agreement. Clearly in this scene, we can see that it's not a sale. The person who is selling it, it is selling for 50,000 and he is going to buy back it for 52,000. In short, he is paying 2,000 excess. So we'll recognize that 2,000 is finance cost and it's a kind, this transaction is of a financial liability. It will be accounted as per Ind AS 109. What are its journal entries? We'll book receivable and revenue for 1 lakh rupees. 1 lakh is the amount for bill and hold agreement. It will be booked on 20th March. Now, 50,000 rupees which we have sold to customer. We'll book a financial liability for the same, so cash account debit to financial liability. And on July 1, when we repurchase it, financial liability will be reversed and 2,000 rupees, which is the remaining balancing figure, it will be recognized as finance cost. Point number 9, license of intellectual property. So what's an intellectual property? First, we'll understand that IP license is a kind of license. The license grants the customer the right to use entities' intellectual property for a specified period of purpose. There are 2 terms. First is right to access IP. Second is right to use IP. What's the difference between the 2? There are 3 pointers. If these 3 are fulfilled, then it's a right to access. Otherwise, it's right to use. First is if company performs any activities which is required by the contract to be performed, which is expected by the party to be performed, and it will impact the license and its effect will also be gone to the customer. It is not part of separate PO. If these 3 conditions are fulfilled, then it's a right to access IP. Otherwise, it is right to use IP. Let's study what is it about. Right to access IP. Customer accesses the intellectual property as it exists throughout the license period. Revenue is recognized over the period in this case. Right to use IP. Customer use the IP as it exists at the point in time the license is granted. Revenue is recognized at a point in time in this case. These are the key indicators. Let's take an example. If, for example, Dharma Productions, if let's take Dharma Production की कोई 5 पुरानी films है, अगर वो पुरानी films को दिखाने का contract it has signed with Netflix. None of the films have been shot. They have been released. This is the kind of right to use IP, and the revenue will be booked at the first day. Will not be booked at over the period of the period. Question number 5 for online participants. Scenario: tech service provide software solution. It enters into 2 separate contracts with customer. Contract A: customer purchases software license that allow them to download and use the software on their own servers indefinitely after a long one-time payment of 10 lakh. No ongoing updates or supports are included. Contract B: customer subscribe to the same software for cloud services, paying rupees 2 lakh per year. They cannot download or install the software. They can only access it online. TechServe provide updates, maintenance, and customer support throughout the subscription period. Now the question is based on Ind AS 115. How should TechServe classify revenue recognition for these 2 contracts? Point A, option A, contract A, revenue recognized over time. Contract B, revenue recognized at point in time. Option B, Contract A, revenue recognized at a point in time. Contract B, revenue recognized over time.
So bit.
Option C.
The
both
answer is option number B.
correct answer. Point number 10 is related to contract cost. ये अपन मोस्टली तब यूज करते हैं जब कोई कॉन्ट्रैक्ट है फॉर अ पीरियड whose duration is more than 1 year. There are two type of cost. First is contract acquisition cost. Second is contract fulfillment cost. Acquisition cost जो अपन कॉन्ट्रैक्ट एक्वायर करने के लिए कर रहे हैं, fulfillment जो अपन फुलफिल करने के लिए परफॉर्मेंस ऑब्लिगेशन सेटिस्फाई करने के लिए कर रहे हैं. The basic principle is costs are capitalized if expected to be recovered and relate directly to an identified contract. Otherwise, they are expensed off. So there are four classifications of these costs. First cost, which is contract acquisition cost, is divided into two type of cost. First is sunk cost, cost which is already incurred. SE cost, which will be incurred whether or not we receive the contract or not. It will be expensed off as income. And the second is contract acquisition cost, incremental cost, which we are performing only to obtain contract. This will be capitalized only if it can be recoverable from the customer. Second type of cost is contract fulfillment cost. If any contract fulfillment cost is covered by another index, for example, index 2, index 16, index 38, the accounting for the same will be done as per the relevant index. And if it is not covered by any another index, cost directly related to this service, it will be capitalized provided it is incurred to satisfy the performance obligation and it is expected to be recovered from the customer. Practical illustrations and impairment of contract value. I have given two examples. First is capitalized cost examples. Costs such as direct sale commission, mobilization cost, design cost, these will be capitalized because these are incurred to satisfy our performance obligation under the contract. Second is expense example, such as cost of wasted labor, wasted material that are not reflected in contract price, administrative overhead, cost incurred regardless of contract acquisition. So these, it is a kind of sunk cost, so it will not be capitalized, it will be expensed off. Impairment testing. Capitalized contract costs are subject to impairment testing. अगर अपनी जो carrying amount है इस asset का exceed कर रहा है, then the remaining consideration less the direct cost yet to be booked. तो अपने को उतने अमाउंट का इम्पेयरमेंट और फिर रिकॉग्नाइज करना पड़ेगा एज पर इंडेक्स 115. इसके अलावा अपने को इंडेक्स 2 और इंडेक्स 38 के अकॉर्डिंग भी इम्पेयरमेंट टेस्टिंग करनी पड़ेगी. Question number 6 for offline participants. Scenario: ABC Limited enters into a 3-year service contract with a customer. The contract price is 12 lakh, 4 lakh per year. ABC Limited pay a sales commission of 60,000 to the salesperson only if the contract is obtained and will be recovered. Other general marketing costs, rupees 20,000, are incurred regardless of contract. Question is, how should ABC Limited treat this cost under Index 115? A. Capitalize 60,000 as an asset, expense 20,000 immediately. B. Expense both 60,000 and 20,000 immediately. C. Capitalize 60,000 as an asset and amortize over 3 years. D. Treat 60,000 as liability and 20,000 as an asset. Correct answer. 11th point is service concession again. Service concession arrangement. So what is basically an SCA contract? It's a kind of PPP. It works on PPP model, that is public-private partnership model. Here, मोस्टली गवर्नमेंट फर्म्स होते हैं, वो कोई प्राइवेट एंटिटीज को एक प्रोजेक्ट देती है जहां पे वो बिल्ड करेगी और अपग्रेड करेगी इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर विच विल बी ओपन फॉर जनरल पब्लिक फॉर यूज. उसके बदले दे विल रिसीव या तो रिटर्न ओवर टाइम और दे विल बी गिवन अ राइट टू चार्ज फ्रॉम द जनरल पब्लिक. There are two parties involved. First is grantor, which is mostly PSUs. Second is operator, which is the public sector involved in this construction. Now, its accounting will be done as per Ind AS 115. infrastructure with the company's building will not be recognized as PP because operator does not have any right to control the use of public service infrastructure. There are two cases. First, cash guaranteed payment by grantor. If the person is directly getting the cash or guaranteed payment, the operator has an unconditional right to receive cash. He will recognize a financial asset as per Ind AS 109 and the interest income recognized over time. If he gets a right to collect charge from users, he'll book an intangible asset and amortize it over the concession period. Here's a disclosure regarding SCA contract in annual return of FY 24-25 IRB Infrastructure Limited. Here you can see there's a SCA contract. He has booked SCA contract as an intangible asset. Contract is of IRB Ahmedabad Vadodara Super Expressway. He has given the concession period date, starting date, end date, and the period, and also the date when the construction was completed. All the disclosure is given here. Now let's study what's the difference between Ind AS 115 versus AS7. AS7 was related to construction contracts. Scope. Ind AS 115 covers all type of contract with customer, whereas AS7 was specifically considering only construction contracts. Subsequent change in transaction prices. Ind AS 115 provide guidance regarding subsequent changes, whereas AS7 provided no guidance for such information. Third, performance obligation versus percentage completion. Ind AS 115, it recognizes revenue when performance obligation is satisfied, whereas AS7 recognizes revenue based on work completed. The fourth point, contract modification. Ind AS 115 provides specific guidance on modification, whereas AS7 has less guidance needed in this. Next is Ind AS 115 versus AS9. 9 was for revenue recognition. Key differences are first, concept of control and transfer of risk. AS9's main motto was it emphasized directly on transfer of risk and reward. Agar risk or reward transfer हो जाता है to customer, we recognize revenue. Whereas in Ind AS 115, अपन देखते हैं transfer of control and completion of performance obligation. Second, timing of revenue recognition. Ind AS 115 use करता है 5-step model को. इसकी वजह से different timings आता है. AS9 only emphasize when there is a transfer of risk and rewards, we recognize revenue. C. Treatment of variable consideration. Ind AS 115 provides extensive guidance on estimating and constraining variable consideration. AS9 was less prospective on this. And D. Disclosure requirement. Ind AS 115 mandates significantly more extensive disclosure than AS9, enhancing transparency. There's one more point I would like to add. AS9 also taught us about how we have to book royalty income, interest income, whereas Ind AS 115 is not doing this. There's separate Ind AS or doing that's 109 for interest and royalties. That's it from my side.
कुछ भी रहेगा कोई तो कुछ क्लैरिटी आया आप लोगों को Ind AS 115 के रिगार्डिंग. Ind AS 115 में जो आज हम